So we're about 3 months into Math with Confidence for third grade and fifth grade math. And I'd mentioned before why I had switched from Right Start Math to Math with Confidence, but I'll just recap that real quick to make this easy for you. You don't have to go hunt for that video. So Right Start Math has a ton of manipulatives, which is really great when your kids really need that. And it's very parent time intensive. Like you have to do a lot of setup prior to teaching it. And it was a good fit for us at the time. And I do still love that it teaches the abacus and how to use that as a math tool. But this year we found out my daughter has dyscalculia and my son was last year diagnosed with ADD. And his ADD, the Right Start Math was still okay, but it was not the best fit, I would say. There were just too many moving parts and pieces, and it was just easy for him to get distracted with it. And for my daughter, all of the concepts, even the pace, was just a bit overwhelming for her. And it does build on itself, just like any other math program, but there's not as much circle back. There's not as much spiral as I would like to have seen in Right Start Math. I mean, it exists there, but it's not the same as with Math with Confidence. There's the pages are much simpler and it's more colorful, so it's more engaging for her to begin with, and for someone who's not really that into math and doesn't get the math that easily, at least the pages are appealing to her. Whereas with Right Start Math, everything's in black and white, which is great for color copies or for making copies if you need it for another student and you don't want to have that extra expense. But it wasn't a great fit for her. And it wasn't the best fit for my son. It was okay, but it wasn't the best. And so I decided this year to try Math with Confidence. And I'm really, really glad that I switched. I'm finding that the fewer numbers of problems on a page is better. Since it's broken up into part A, B, and C, we can do a little bit at a time and then come back to it in a much easier way than setting up Right Start Math and then breaking it down and then setting it back up again. It's harder to stop and then come back to if you need to clean up your kitchen table for something else. We live in our RV until our house gets built. So space is limited here. So it's not like I can just leave the math out. It has to be cleaned up and put away. And so also storing all of the stuff that goes with Right Start Math is more than I really wanted in the RV, but it was a good fit for the time in which we had purchased it. Levels A and B really did help my son, but level C was just more than we wanted to dive into for him as a kid with ADD. There was just too much on the page, too many things on the page. But it is still a great curriculum, and I'm not knocking that. I just really much prefer Math with Confidence with its more simplistic instructions for the teacher, first of all, too. The teacher book is much easier to read and understand than the steps that are in the teacher book for Right Start Math. I'm not saying that for everybody they're going to be hard to read, but for someone who grew up with dyscalculia, yeah, I have it too. I always questioned it and thought I might, but I never actually got diagnosed with it or had any services for it in school or whatever. It's just math was always a struggle for me when I was younger. So the instructions are not written well for a person who doesn't conceptualize math in the regular way that most people do. But the Math with Confidence curriculum manuals are written in a much more common sense way, and they're much easier to understand, I think, than the directions in the Right Start Math manuals. And there are so many less manipulatives. You still need some things, but it's not a lot of things, and most of it's stuff you already have around your house. The only extra thing that I did buy that I didn't have or need with Right Start with this was I chose to buy DigiBlocks, which you can look at digiblocks.com, and I have another video about them anyway. It's a base 10 system that the blocks literally fit inside of each other. So if you think about like your regular Unifix cubes or your base 10 blocks, usually you have the hundreds, the tens, and then the ones, but they don't connect together or fit inside each other. The DigiBlocks, you have a big 1,000 block, and then inside of those is these 100 blocks. And inside of the hundreds are the tens blocks. And inside of the 10 blocks are the ones blocks. So they all fit together inside. So your child can actually visually see taking out a 10, taking out a 1. In a way that's much different than with like Unifix cubes. But that's going on a tangent about a different product. So I really do want to stick to saying that I just love with Math with Confidence. It's beautiful, it's colorful, it's easier to break up into smaller parts to do chunks at a time. It's easier to decide what to skip. So like if your child doesn't need a lot of extra practice, you can skip that guided practice, or you can skip that extra practice if the child got the concepts, which that's harder to do with Right Start Math. You have to actually like look at all the problems and then just choose a few at random to knock off. You don't really know very clearly what is necessary for the lesson versus what's fluff. So there's that too. So I still like Right Start Math. It has its pros and cons. It's great for a student who's super high achieving. It's great for a student whose family prefers only black and white ink. Like that is phenomenal for some kids. For some kids with ADD, that's actually helpful. My son, it's definitely necessary for his language arts curriculum, but it wasn't necessary for his math curriculum because the Math with Confidence is very subdued colors, and there's not like tons of colors all over the page. So like the good and the beautiful, yeah, it's really pretty. It would not work for my son. There's way too much color on the page. It's way too much distracting art, which I don't need in a math curriculum or want in a math curriculum. So that, I guess, is the main reason that we switched from Right Start Math to Math with Confidence. It's a better fit for my daughter and for my son for their particular learning disabilities and special needs. All right, that's it. Have a great day. Bye-bye.